You're listening
to the CD Baby
CD Baby
DIY
Musician Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 95 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin, and joining me for this roundtable edition of the show is Chris and the Bolt.
Howdy.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Good. Yawning.
It's Monday morning. We normally don't record on Mondays, so...
And it's also the first day of fall.
Yeah, or winter or whatever.
Winter, yeah.
It's supposed to be the first day of summer, but I'm not buying it.
It's cold and rainy.
Yep.
What the heck? I guess that's what we get for living in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
It provides inspiration to write music, though.
Yeah. Just hunker down in our basements and write some tunes.
The pains and anguish of normal life isn't
weepy
enough,
folk music.
Yeah.
All right, so everything been going good for you guys?
Sure.
Pretty good. Might be losing a band member in my band.
That
Luckily,
happens.
you also
Luckily, we have
8
9 people in the band. Yeah.
You kind of helped them out. Hey, no problem. No hard feelings whatsoever. It's been fun. We got the chance to open for Wang Chung last Saturday, which was very enjoyable. It was an interesting experience.
Did you enjoy the green room?
No, I did not, because they kicked us out.
Aw.
That was a leading question.
Yeah, they set up this other side room that's normally like a DJ booth when they have dance stuff for us, and we were calling it the brown room because we were kicked out of the normal green room. But no, it was a good show. It was fun, and those can't complain.
Was there a good crowd?
You know what? It wasn't as big as I had expected. They were really into it.
Yeah.
Even our set, but we've played some bigger shows at that venue.
Yeah.
But, they were definitely. It was a weird mix of like the 40-year-old guy who drug his wife there, who didn't care one bit.
Drugged his wife to get her there.
Yeah,
Drugged his wife and dragged her into the club by her hair.
Drugged her like in the sense that you thought I meant, but took her there because he made her go. How about that? But they were, really into Wang Chung. But then there was like this, mix of younger people that were really into Wang Chung as well. And they all seemed to like us a lot, and we had some very enthusiastic people in the crowd. So.
And did they play the song?
Of course. I mean, people would throw rotten fruit at them if they didn't.
Did they play it last?
No. Well, here's the thing. We saw their set list before, and Everybody Have Fun Tonight was supposed to be the encore. And they just played it down, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're not doing an encore. They came out and did one song as an encore, and it was a Beatles cover, and then left the stage, and we thought it was kind of lame.
That's weird. What Beatles tune?
I think it was I Want to Hold Your Hand. And it wasn't the greatest rendition. It's a great song. I mean, everyone's going to sing, but it was just kind of weird. They come back and then play. They hadn't done any covers all night.
Right.
And then they come back and play a Beatles song and leave.
You guys should have covered dance hall days in your set.
We goofed off talking about one day I would, if we were more established and wouldn't get our tires slashed, I would love to do that, cover the song from the hit song of the band that you're opening for. And
hilarious.
You just got to be ready to pack up and get out quick. Well, we got a lot to get to, lots of listener feedback, and we'll talk some about the last episode with Martin Adkins, and where we talked about touring and his book Tour Smart. But let's start off by getting into some news.
CD Baby.
CD Baby Music.
Well, unless you've been living under a rock, you should know that the new iPhone is coming this week. And the new iPhone will be released with some new features and upgrades that a couple of them that I thought were of note for musicians. And one is the higher resolution camera that will shoot HD video, and new iPhone owners will be able to purchase a stripped down version of iMovie, allowing them to shoot, edit, and post HD video on the fly.
Pretty cool.
Speaking of video editing, YouTube has launched a new online cloud-based video editor, enabling you to edit videos that are in your YouTube account. At the moment, you can only arrange clips and adjust clip lengths, but I'm sure more features will follow soon. This should also serve as a handy tool for those wanting to upload and edit quick videos on the fly. You can find the video editor at youtube.com/editor. And the last bit of news I had here is in a recent interview for a high school textbook, the RAC's Active Citizen Toolkit, quite a textbook name, Tom York, Radiohead's frontman, claims that the music industry is dying. This was reported in thisislondon.co.uk. To quote him, it'll be only a matter of time, York says, months rather than years before the music business establishment completely folds, advising aspiring musicians not to tie themselves to such a sinking ship. York adds that the fall of the music business will be no great loss to the world. Those are the main articles I saw. There was a couple other about video I was going to mention. It was kind of funny. One was a Nielsen report saying video viewing online is down, and another one saying video viewing online was up by another company called eMarketer. It was just so funny that I thought very two opposing reports on video.
That's why you should believe everything you read online.
That's right. It is the center of all truth.
Totally schizophrenic. Right?
That's right. But the new iPhone will be released with much fanfare. But we've talked in the past about how video is going to be such an important component, in my opinion. And I think things like this are making it more possible, like to be a real-time device.
You're going to be able to stream video from your phone, and I'm sure there's going to be applications where you can stream it and put it on your website so that someone could hold your phone up and record your concert, basically, so it's live streaming on your website or whatever.
Yeah, that'll just be a matter of bandwidth time, when they get all that worked out.
Here's the devil's advocate question, though. So, we had MySpace, and then the few artists that got on MySpace early used it real well. Now everyone's on MySpace. Twitter, first 6 months of Twitter, people were really using it for good. Now everyone's going to be able to make quick, easy videos, and no one will care about videos anymore. So what's after that?
I think there's going to be oversaturation of videos.
Yes.
Well, the thing that's different about video, one component that I think is important is that YouTube is the number 2 search engine right now. So people are searching for content on YouTube, much like they would search Google, like, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Or, so I think it's not, you still have to be strategic with how you use video. Because, it'll just be like, if you're not writing great music or position it in a way that people want to hear it, it'll just sit there as well. Mm-hmm. But I think video is a little different, and I think that real-time video is going to become more and more important. But, the bandwidth through your phone is not there to put your phone on and stream it on the web. But you can hook your computer up to a camera and stream your concert live.
But the iPhone does now does the live streaming chat, so that's the same thing as streaming video.
Yeah, quality's probably awful.
But it only does it through Wi-Fi. It doesn't do it through the phone.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, that's the main thing. That's what I'm talking about. Like the phone, the service providers right now, it's AT&T. They're not going to give you the bandwidth. Most likely to be able, without getting charged massively.
Right.
I mean, because they changed their data plan. So, I mean, that's one of the things to add in there, that they're going to charge you more and more. So you don't want $1,000 phone bill just to stream your concert that
kidding.
5 people came to. Anyway, Tom York's comment was funny. And was it you and I that were talking about this, Chris?
I think so. I saw it in Slate or Slate.com.
But I just, I thought his comments were very much from, as much as I love Radiohead, from his perspective of being a very enormous band that used that system to get to where they're at. And the changes to him probably seem catastrophic compared to how they might seem to the average indie artist, where we see things totally different. Where
Well, and the thing is these media companies, and that's what they are. The large record companies are media companies. They've got their hands in everything. I don't think they're just going to flop. I think they're just going to, their ways of business are going to change, and a few of them may flop, but I think that there's enough savvy people out there that they'll just start doing business differently,
Right.
Yeah, I don't think the establishment is going to just crumble within months like
Yeah.
he thinks, but
It'd be fun to watch.
It would
Yeah,
be fun to watch. It would
he-
be exciting. I'm not against the idea.
he may feel like it's that way, but I think that's totally just from his perspective. They have made good use of that establishment, and the things that they enjoyed from may not the benefits they received from that establishment may be dwindling just for Radiohead as well. So he may feel a little bit more urgent about it than someone who's an indie artist looking at it from a totally different perspective. But it's always interesting to hear what artists like that have to say about the industry. And yeah. So, unless you guys have anything else regarding the news items, we will move right along. Before we get into our brief recap of last week's episode with Martin Atkins, I did want to say that I'm going to be interviewing Tom Jackson again coming up. He was one of the most popular episodes we've done to date. And they asked me if I'd be interested in having him back and talk about a specific topic he has in mind. And I said, sure. And I also asked if we could get some listener questions, because I know a lot of artists emailed us with questions pertaining to that episode. So if you have a question for Tom Jackson that you'd like answered on the show, go ahead and email us, info@cdbabypodcast.com, or give us a call at 206-426-5683. And I'm going to try and compile, the most popular themes and questions and ask him some of those for you when I have him on the show. Depending on how much time he has, we may make it a two-parter. And so I was hoping that maybe one of them was just all listener questions.
But just for context, he's the performance coach. Right?
Yes, Tom
Nashville.
Jackson. I'll put a link to that episode from this podcast, because I think it's like 45 or somewhere in there, episode 45.
So the questions should, pertain to performance, I imagine, and not
yes,
just
live performance. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. It's a great one on putting together a live show and being a live performer. And so if you have questions after listening to it, email us, and we'll try and ask him on the next podcast if time permits.
Yeah, if you have any questions about herbal medicines or
Actually,
really,
he's really into that stuff.
he's really into herbal medicines.
When I met him, he had a whole briefcase full of like,
so you can't, if you have
vitamins. It was like seriously a giant briefcase full of vitamins and herbs and things like that.
Let me put my foot right in my mouth,
I
because
know.
obviously
You thought you were being funny,
I thought
and
I
he
was
probably
being
could have
funny.
answered it.
So if you do have any questions involving either stage performances or herbal medicines, be sure to ask Tom Jackson.
That's right. He's your man. So yeah, that'll be coming up, and we normally don't have the opportunity to ask listener questions, so I thought this time it would be cool to add that in. So, Martin Adkins, Tour Smart.
I read that book about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and his attitude not in person, but his voice is exactly how the book reads,
Really? It
which
comes
is
through.
nice. It's a very consistent tone.
With all the expletives
yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody posted on Twitter, CD Baby Podcast, explicit, you guys have changed.
For the better.
Normally I would try and edit some of that out, but there was no way to make it work in this case, and I just opted for actually getting the episode out as opposed to holding on to it. But I did want to give the little warning, because I have received emails from plenty of you that say you like to listen in the car with your family, or your kids are into the show too. So I just want to make sure that warning was there to not get hate mail from people. I just couldn't live with myself if that happened. So, but yeah, he had some great advice. He's very entertaining to listen to.
Yeah.
But I wrote down a couple things that I wanted to highlight. But what did you guys think?
Well, my thought about the book particularly was that as I was reading it, it had a lot of really, really great advice for bands that were either established or sort of clearly on the rise and in a position where they had money and some backing, but it wasn't very helpful for someone position I was in at the time, which is really just trying to scrape a tour together with nothing.
Right.
And you know, it was fun to read. There's lots of stories and good anecdotes and stuff about famous bands and how someone that is successful is living on the road. But anyways, I think he got a little more into the indie details on the podcast. But.
Yeah, but I would slightly disagree with your statement, because I was looking through the book and saw a lot of what you were talking about, like how it, before we started recording the podcast, how it talks about renting a bus and things like, you know. The thing that I thought was good about some of those real detailed things that he had in there, even for somebody who's not renting a bus, I thought it was, or, you know, renting as much equipment to go out on the road, like, you know, he shows some of those scenarios. I thought it was good for an artist to really understand all the details involved to really make a tour work well.
Right.
And because it seems like a lot of artists, they don't even think about that. You know, if you're just wanting to just get out on the road and play and you're 21 and have no responsibilities and aren't concerned about money, and
right,
then, you know, whatever. But if you're somebody who's like trying to make it work financially, there's a lot of things that just brings to mind. Oh yeah, I do have to figure in vehicle costs. I am going to break down. There's no way that you're going to tour the U.S. and not break down at least once, whether it's a flat tire or something where you're going to need to spend some money on, you know, maybe some sort of little repair and gas. And to me, I just thought that stuff is the kind of thing that artists forget about, then get out on the road and just get clobbered with, and then their tour, they have a bad taste in their mouth and never want to tour again.
I know that on the rare occasions where I've ever gotten to tour, I'm usually so excited about just touring that the fact that we lose money is not always a huge concern. I don't have to work for a week and I get to go drive around and play shows in front of people. It's awesome.
I've noticed that a really bad habit I can fall into sometimes is the adventure of it all does take me out of, it puts me a little bit in vacation mode as opposed to treating it just like a business, where if I had to live off of what I was making on the road, I'd be more upfront about what do they call it? The terms of your performance agreements, your riders, making sure there were guarantees everywhere,
right,
really making sure that the merch booth was set up first thing and torn down at the last possible minute, all that stuff. But it's a little, it's like it's fun, so you're more apt to just take the $25 that the guy gives you at the end of the night and say, all right.
And I know it's not very professional of me, but I am
giving awful advice.
I know, but
that's one of the things when, after touring with Small Town Poets, when I kind of started playing in the local scene, like when we were on tour with Small Town Poets, every day was like a 15-hour work day. It was not fun. It was, doing the shows was fun, but every city we were in, we were nonstop doing everything possible to promote in that city and then move on to the next. Where a lot of independent artists I've met since then, it seems like going out on the road is a vacation, and they're just playing some shows along the way. Well, and if that's all you want to get out of it, that's totally cool. I think a lot of like what's in Barton's book talks about, really assessing what the point of you going out on the road is in the first place. If you're really trying to break into markets, then you really need to take a look at what you're doing and the time you're spending and why you're going there in the first place. One of the things he mentioned was how enormous America is, and that seems kind of funny that he would say that, but it's true. I mean, it is huge, and it's really hard to get from the West Coast to the East Coast and vice versa.
It's even hard to get south from Seattle or Portland to San Francisco, LA.
Just because of the length?
Yeah, it's so far between major cities.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Small Town Poets, we were based out of Atlanta, and so there's like 3 hours there's a city, then another 3 hours there's a city, and it was great, like touring the Southeast and getting up to the North, super easy, but getting beyond the Mississippi River became a challenge because, you're talking about sometimes a 500-mile drive to, you got to work with places that have availability in their schedule, and where you're at. And I had a friend that was on the West Coast that their band could never get past the West Coast without just losing tons of money, just because sometimes days between cities that have an opening for you to play, and it's just really difficult. So it is interesting. I'd like to hear from artists that we have, like in the UK. He mentioned the UK. Hear what the experience is like there, if it's really easy because the cities are a lot closer together.
Sounds
delightful.
Yeah, I know. That sounds like a vacation.
Yeah, 50-mile drive and you're done.
That's right.
You'd have all the time in the world to do your radio promos, your in-store CD signings, if you only had to drive 50 miles a day.
Another thing he mentioned that I thought was good was going through experiences as a band. One of the benefits of touring, he was saying that, it's kind of like this thing that kind of just brings camaraderie to the group. Even if you're a solo artist, because I was thinking about, well, what if you're an independent or just a solo artist? I think getting out on the road just provides so many experiences that, you're out of your element. You have to rely on people. You have
Get to know all the dollar menus at all the different fast food joints.
Bring camaraderie to yourself.
You have to feel what it is to live on Taco Bell's 99-cent menu for a week. If you survive that, you're good. You can tour.
The thing I was thinking of when he mentioned that about using the road as a learning experience, basically it was when I tour with my band, we've rehearsed together, we know our sound, we feel like we've got what we do sonically very set, and then there's minor tweaking about the order you put the songs in and stage banter and what we're going to wear and stuff. But the times when I'm really panicky is when I tour solo, because I generally don't do that. So it's always like the first 3 shows I feel awkward and terrible and like nervous, and then I slowly have that learning experience of, okay, well, make sure you do this with your vocals here and make sure you tell these stories. And then by the ends of those tours, I'm like, I love this. I could be a folk troubadour.
Yeah.
Make a lot more money.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, but I'm sure, if I went out on the road for a long time with a band, a similar kind of thing would happen by the time we get back. But
well, I think, besides the building camaraderie, like he mentioned, the one thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about touring is kind of like what you're saying, you get good. You kind of, when you're home rehearsing, you can be great as a band in the rehearsal hall or, the practice room. But to me, the thing that makes you a pro is being able to handle all the mental challenges that are thrown at you and still give a good performance.
yeah. And to give a good performance when no one cares. And
yeah, just all those challenges, stuff breaking, nobody being there except for 10 people, who paid to see you. So it's not like you can just, they're there to see you. They actually came. So it's typical for bands to just blow them off too. But it's just dealing with all those challenges and, being with people constantly, it really helps you build mental toughness so you can get out and play great and handle all the challenges.
That reminds me of this funny show that my band Nervous and the Kid played years ago in a different format. We went on tour, we played probably 10 dates, and then when we came back, we had a show here in Portland, and we were on top of our game, but we had also not slept in 12 hours. But we were coming back to Portland, and we were we are going to rock this show, we're going to show Portland what it's like. But nobody showed up at the show. It was a pizza joint. I don't even know how we got it. We were playing with another band that was a punk band and didn't really jive with our music. But we played we were on an auditorium stage, hitting everything and flying around the pizza. I think everyone thought we were absolutely insane because we were manically playing, and afterwards we were kind of that was kind of weird, wasn't it? We kind of maybe overdid it a little bit.
That'd be funny if someone from the audience said, "You realize nobody's here."
Calm down.
Calm down. That would be funny. Yeah. Hey, but you gave it your all.
Yeah.
That's all that counts. One of the last things I wanted to mention from the interview is unfortunate. It's kind of unfortunate that it's still pretty much this way, but for the independent artist, playing shows and touring is still pretty much your main catalyst for getting press. We've talked plenty in the past about getting press and interviewed a music editor. And, the main thing for the independent artist is, they've got a show, so that gets them interested in, taking a listen to your music, or release show, or coming through town. And so that's one of the benefits. There's ways to get press without it. And, new things are popping up all the time, but it's still with the kind of media, especially, my experience with it, in like Portland, if you don't have a show, they don't care.
Yeah.
And even if you do have a show, they still don't care.
Right. There's a lot of music here.
But it seems like that's the main kind of thing that gets them thinking, okay, maybe I will feature this band, and that they're playing shows. So, there's still lots of great music being made that people aren't touring on, but for getting press, that's kind of the main catalyst still. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about the episode. We did get some feedback already, and we're going to share in just a minute. And you can give us feedback by emailing info@cdbabypodcast.com, calling the listener line at 206-426-5683. That number is also on the podcast website, where you can leave comments as well, and that's cdbabypodcast.com. And we did have a comment from Complex. They said, awesome episode. I can listen to that guy talk for 18 more hours.
Wow.
He echoed a lot of great advice you guys have given us in these podcasts, plus more. I didn't want to listen to this podcast at first because I don't know when I'll ever... Dropped my paper. Don't know when I'll ever be able to tour, but I'm glad I did. His advice to start small is very encouraging, and he had a ton more useful things to say that wasn't even about touring. Brought some great reality and perspective. Thanks, guys. Yeah, there were some other comments on the blog that were good, so you might want to read those. And I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing Martin. Maybe we'll have him back on the podcast again. I actually, little inside secret, had to cut the interview off because my card was full, and he would have gone for another 18 hours, I think.
Oh, the memory on your recorder was full.
Yeah, I wasn't using the normal recorder I normally use, and I was literally trying to get a stopping point. I did a little trickery there at the end.
Nice.
The interview didn't end there, but he would have gone on for a while. But so we'll have to have him back on the podcast. He's got a new book coming out this fall. We'll probably
Also about touring?
it's called Band Smart. So we'll have him back on when he gets that out. Let's get into some phone calls. We've got lots of calls.
CD Baby Podcast.
Message line
206-426-5683.
The number you have dialed, 206-426-5683.
Hi, this is Monty Singleton from Salt Lake City, Utah. Loved the interview with Martin Atkins. Glad you got him on the show. Just wanted to reiterate Kevin's opinion about it being the best book he's read on touring. I'd go one step further and say it's the best book in the music, on the music business, period. If there's any book that you're going to read, have it be Tour Smart, because nothing's more important than touring. Love the show. Keep it up. Bye.
Hi, it's Linda Wood here from Sydney, Australia. That's lindawood.com.au. Linda with an I. I'm a regular listener, and I just finished listening to episode 93, the Roundtable, about Twitter's slow dive and Facebook's faceplant. I've been listening to all this discussion about free, whether or not things should be free, or what the positives and negatives are, and I just thought I'd share some of my experiences for the benefit of all the listeners out there. I released a single last year using the principle of giving that away for free as an exclusive for those who sign up to my email list. And I have found since I did that I've had a steady increase of sign-ups, which has been fantastic. It also gave me an event to publicise, because I did a single release and I managed to get some publicity in some of the local newspapers in Sydney, which was really fantastic because all of that can be used later on. However, the one mistake I did make was I did the single release as part of a gig that was part of a broader festival called Emergenza, which is run kind of like a band competition. And what I didn't factor in there was that there would be a number of people there for the event who weren't there to see me, And the mistake that I made was I had people who went around the audience, because part of the publicity that I had made was that everyone would get a free CD, plus they would get my previous album for free. And so I had people who handed them out for me. However, what happened was there were some rather young, hoonish fellas who were probably had been taking stuff they shouldn't have and were very poorly behaved. And right at the end of my set, as the last note finished, and it had been a really good set, a CD came flying through the air and hit me just above my eye, and I had a bruised, swollen eyebrow for a few weeks. But that just you felt the atmosphere in the venue completely changed. So what I decided from that was have them where some people who want them can come and get them, but you're not handing them around so that they're not available for people who might do what you don't want to do with them, chuck them in the bin or throw them at you or whatever. So that's my experience. Oh, and also, could you do a session on how to make the most of music industry conferences and trade shows as an indie artist? Because I break out in hives whenever I hear the word networking. It's kind of nervous-making for me. Anyway, goodbye for now from Australia, lindawood.com.au. Thanks. Bye.
All right, thanks for those calls. We've got plenty more to come, but figured we'd chat about these first.
And my eyebrows started hurting.
I feel bad for Linda. Linda, I teared up.
It reminded me of that concert David Bowie got like a lollipop stuck in his eye or something. Do you remember that? Maybe
No.
10 years ago.
Oh, really? He
Someone threw something at him, and I think it was like,
a lollipop.
That was some good advice, though, if you're going to hand out CDs, to make it only like at an event that's, your fan base or people that would be interested in your music. At a big festival like that, there's characters that end up there.
Yeah. Well, we've also talked about, like, even if it's free, you have to make the person that's going to receive the free CD do something.
Think of it as a valuable gift.
Even if it's just walking over to the table and expressing interest. You know, they have to make some sort of effort to get it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just wasting money and time.
Yeah, because she also mentioned people throwing it in the trash.
Right.
And that would be my biggest fear, is that you hand out a bunch of free CDs and then now the floor is lined with my free CD that I just gave everybody.
Well, it's like you go into a conference when people are handing out T-shirts and buttons. At the end there's 100 T-shirts and buttons lying around the floor.
An excellent segue to the other part of her question.
I know.
Or Bolton. Yes, conferences. She asked about that. Chris over here wrote an article about conferences that's on the DIY Musician blog at diymusician.cdbaby.com. That's about conferences that, Linda, you may want to check out.
The general theme of that article was stay extremely busy and be extremely nice.
Yeah. The networking at conferences also makes me want to hide in my room at the hotel and not go hang out in the convention center. But I think, if you just go in there with some normal, average expectations that, you might meet a few people and are courteous and, saying hi to people and getting their name and info is usually not that difficult.
Yeah, it also helps to keep in mind that the sort of apprehension that you might feel is probably shared by every other person at the conference. So it's like there's plenty of people just like you that might be there alone or with only a few friends, and it's perfectly fine to just go up and be like, hey, where are you from? What's your name? And start a conversation.
Yep.
For me, I think it would help, and I actually haven't been to any music conferences, but it would help for me, I think, going into a situation like that to have goals to start out with. Not really lofty ones necessarily, but like...
Get signed.
Goal number 1, get signed. Goal number 2, tour the world.
Right.
Get rich.
Get rich. I only got 4 goals there. That shouldn't be that hard.
4-day conference?
That's right.
4 goals.
1 goal a day? No problem.
No, but like I would like to see this person speak, or I would like to, chat with this person.
And that's what I did when I went to South by Southwest. I kind of listed out, looked through everything and found all the panelists, like all the people that I wanted to hear and all the people I'd be interested in meeting and talking to and just introducing myself to. And South by Southwest, it became really challenging. I think I met one person,
Right.
But
make 100 possible little goals and accomplish a quarter of them.
There you go. All right, and thanks, Monty.
That's how I live my life.
Monty also highly recommended the book, and so it's worth checking out. Tour Smart. Get it. Love it. All right, we got more calls.
Hey, Kevin, Chris, and the Bolt. Here's some feedback. I would like you to continue with the podcast during the summer. Weekly is great. Even if you don't have a special guest, a roundtable is great. You have some good things to talk about. One thing I'd like to see addressed is a singer-songwriter who wants to perform with his backing tracks that I've recorded. Any suggestions for ways to do that? The ideal situation would be able to have it set up so that if I have somebody playing acoustic guitar with me, that I could delete the acoustic guitar track in the song and play the other tracks. I know there's different ways of attacking it. I'm just wondering if you've had any experience with that. One possibility is just have a thanks and a quick other comment just to dispel a myth. I'm not on the road touring this summer. I'm not out traveling on a wonderful vacation. I wonder if I've heard you say before that things drop off during the summer and your listenership drops off, or you implied that. I'm wondering why, or if that's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because even if people go on vacation during the summer, they'll catch the podcast when they get back, and they want to hear it. And how long are they gone anyway? A week, 2 weeks. In America, nobody takes vacations that long. We're too many workaholics. Plus, the economy's so bad. Just take a vacation anyway. Anyway, that's my message. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the show. Take care. Bye. Kevin, I'm listening to some of the past podcasts. I can't believe I missed the Moving Rushmore podcast that I had, and I'm listening to it now, and I'm close to tossing my cookies. It makes me sick. The self-absorbed BS factor there is so over the top. We wanted to capture our personalities, and we wanted that to come through in the video. Like, it's kind of a Twitter-type mentality. Like, look at me. Oh, how fascinating I am. The world wants to know about my fascinating life. Here I'm going to Twitter about myself. And here is a band that has been together for 4 months and is chronicling their journey together. I love those terms. Our journey together as we pursue our dream. And we didn't even have a band together, but it's an MTV reality show BS about a band that is basically BS. I'll go listen to their music. So far, I'm not impressed. At least it's somewhat melodic. But the whole concept here is just such crap, and it just shows how our culture has declined to such a bizarre state that these people are even getting attention. It kind of, I'm in a way very surprised you even put on this podcast. I know it's an old podcast, but there's just something about it that just really rankles me. Anyway, besides that, love your show. Take care.
Not a fan of that episode.
Besides Moving Rushmore, he likes everything else.
Let's see where to start. Actually, the main, I thought it was, I always find it interesting when people disagree with us, so those calls usually get on. But the main question I wanted to address is he asked why, how they got on the show in the first place. Just in case you're not familiar with that episode, I think it's like episode 12. It's one of the old school episodes. The reason they got on is because the artist interviews we like to do are ones that the artist is doing something that's getting themselves attention. Now, some of that stuff over the course of 3 years will be like a trend that comes and goes.
Right.
Some of that stuff is just them coming up with a unique idea that will work for anyone, or just them putting it to practice. So in that episode, the thing that's important to know is that video podcasting was brand new. I wouldn't say it was brand new, but there weren't many people doing it. And so bands, especially at that time, that were doing it were getting lots of features in iTunes at the time and actually developing an audience. And these guys were one of them. They got a big front page feature. And so that was an element that any band, or that was a promotion idea that any band could have done. And you still don't see many bands doing that. It's still a good opportunity for people. And that's why we featured them. And although this caller did not like it, there are a lot of people that did, because they actually started selling music and building a fan base because of it. So,
well, I think that, they're trying to tell the story of their group. I think that that's the goal of any band. I mean, the fact that, they're going behind the scenes might seem a little bit pompous for a band that doesn't have any traction. But in the end, like, when you watch like a VH1 documentary or something like that on a band, like, they're telling a story that should be interesting whether the band is famous or not. They're just telling, people's stories about how people came to success or whatever. I guess if you're telling that story pre-success, I guess that's a little bit, presumptuous, but it could also be this story of failure, the story of mediocrity.
There was a scene where they were playing it some outdoor thing, and there was no one there, and the wind's blowing, and the mics are rattling because it had a little bit of the Spinal Tap like failing band humor to it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, you were kind of Bolton kind of talking about the behind the music thing. When a band does have success, those moments are what they want to see the most. The fans, they want to see the early on, before they were nobodies, the failings, and I think, to me, the interesting thing is the thing I tried to take from that is just learning how to tell your story, because that's how you're going to connect with people. Some people, and this was a band that was trying to do it through video, online, and it worked to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, whether the story works on you or not is not necessarily the point. It worked on enough people.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's why we featured them. I mean, that's when I always say, I'm looking for people to interview. I get lots of emails from artists saying, "I've sold this many CDs. I'm great at this. Interview me." And that's not a story. I can find lots of artists to interview because of that.
Right.
What's interesting is something that you're doing that might be connecting with people that our audience can look at and go, "Hey, maybe I'll try that. I learned something from that." So that's the point of that. And the first call...
Oh, the backing tracks.
The backing tracks, yeah. And I was trying to figure out if this was the same caller, because one sounds like the guy amped up on caffeine. He's called a lot, and I appreciate his contributions. But I can't tell if it's the same person or not. One sounds really mellow.
The voice quality was very similar.
He never
on
leaves his name. I kept listening to them both. I'm like, is this the same person? Like, one really excited. Oh, then I listened to episode 12.
And dour, yeah.
But the tone is very different. Yeah.
But anyway, that's beside the point. You had a comment about the backing tracks.
If you're a singer-songwriter, I would recommend against it. This is just my personal aesthetic, but for me, backing tracks only work when it's a small part of some already large sonic thing. So, like, a full band, a 4 or 5 piece band that actually is, playing along to some drum sequence, or like maybe has some synth things. Mm-hmm. That works for me, because you're more engaged in the spectacle of it, and you're probably not going to notice the little added elements as much. But if you're just a guy with an acoustic guitar playing along to drums and bass and piano and background vocals that are all pre-recorded, it just strikes me as really cheesy. And I think that an audience would respond way more to the personal connection of just seeing you with your guitar.
My first response when there's music coming out of a performer and I don't see that instrument is to call fake. Is to be like, inauthentic. Like, I hear a violin, but I do not see a violin. That's not fair.
Speaking of Wang Chung, they had like a whole choir on stage with them, but there was only one guy singing.
Interesting.
Well, to answer his question, because his question was how to do it, more specifically than whether or not to do it. Yeah. I would say that, yes, lots of people are using tracks these days, and most people, there's one of the ways a lot of people are doing is by using Logic. They'll just kind of remix a version of their live or the recording that they did, remix it what they need for their tracks for live stuff.
Why Logic over Pro Tools? Or
I don't know. The main reason is probably Logic allows you to actually play out of the computer.
Right. Pro Tools is a son of a gun. Yeah.
Love it, but I can't believe that. Anyway, so most people that I've seen on stage with a computer are running Logic or, an iPod. A lot of people just put iPods up there with like a click on the left channel and the tracks on the right channel. And but those are the options. Me personally, it depends on the venue. Like I can see a solo singer-songwriter person who has more upbeat albums getting real tired of playing, just acoustically and not being able to have a band, or even, if it's a big club, a music club. But I mean, if you're playing a venue that's not really a music club, which a lot of people are, I don't think it comes off as cheesy. If you're kind of like paid to be the background entertainment, then it's a different vibe. And, I would get tired of not playing with, instruments.
Well, Kevin, we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
To amend what I said, I have seen singer-songwriters do looping things or triggering
no, I'm okay.
samples
I'm okay with that too. I think that if you're doing something with your foot to make something happen and then go away, then that's kind of like playing an instrument. Or
if you're triggering samples that are with your foot that are maybe more ambient or like that come and go as you're tapping things, it's more interactive. It's a physical experience. But just pressing play, along with it.
See, I know it's arbitrary difference, but I feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, we agree, and Kevin doesn't. So
no,
you
I
lose,
didn't
Kevin.
say. If I went to like a rock club and saw that, I would be horrified. But if someone's playing at a restaurant or has a good gig at some little wine bar that's got has a little stage and has a packed house every weekend, but people like there just to hang out, not necessarily see music, I'd be fine with it.
So the distinction is if you're there to be background entertainment and it's okay to be ignored, then it's fine to use tracks. But if you're the prime entertainment,
if people are coming to see you,
if they're supposed to interact with you,
yes,
then you should not use tracks.
That's my call. But I've seen people do whatever. Go with your gut. All right, we got one last call.
Hi guys, this is Dave from the UK, and I have a question on the back of episode 91 concerning the licensing of cover songs. I created a venture called the Dance Rush Project, which is a series of current commercial-sounding songs, basically paying tribute to the Canadian rock legends Rush. Each song is basically a 3.5-minute medley of a Rush album, cleverly combined to sound like an up-to-date commercial track. The plan was that these should sound interesting to the mass market, whilst also being very familiar to die-hard Rush fans, or so the theory goes. Anyway, before hearing your podcast, I had presumed that I needed the band's permission to use their songs. So I discussed a venture with Anthem, Rush's label, who basically told me that the band would never go for it. Ouch. So the songs have since been mothballed until I heard your interview with Scott Selwood, which got me thinking. So the question is, can I still release my tracks as medleys if I license them correctly without needing the approval of the band or the label? It'd be great if you could shed some light on this for me. Thanks for the help. Again, this is Dave in the UK from the Dance Rush Project. For info, my first two tracks, entitled Signals and Power Windows, can be found on my MySpace page at myspace.com/Dance Rush Project. Cheers, guys. Bye.
All right, thanks for that call.
I'm not a lawyer, but I think the answer is no, he can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, in the interview, we talked about that briefly, and they said that medleys are very difficult. And
because they're considered derivative works,
yeah,
right?
Well, that's the thing. It's all gray area. Most likely, yes. I mean, some people do medleys where it's really like they took two songs and just did a little segue. But that's like sounds like a very type of derivative work what he did.
What if he
Derivative
licensed?
work's the legal term. It's
what-
not like a judgment call.
What if he licensed like every single song and every single? I mean, he'd probably end up paying more money.
Well, that's what I think Scott Selwood in the interview. Scott Selwood works at Rightsflow, a company that we send people to license cover songs. Mentioned that that's an option that sometimes comes up, is that you got one song, it's a medley, and everybody involved wants the full price for their song. That's just something that you're gonna have to deal with. Like give Rightsflow a call or talk to a lawyer, because chances are it's going to be a difficult process.
Because even if it's like 10 songs, I mean, you're going to end up making almost nothing on the top if you're paying 10 songs for one song.
Yeah, the fee of 10 songs in one song.
And it might be something that, whoever owns those songs doesn't want you using them that way, because it is not a cover song when you do that to it. It becomes something totally different. If you're changing or altering the work, that's when it stops being a cover song and it becomes a derivative work. And sometimes a medley can be considered that. In this case, it's definitely got to be. So, it's going to be a difficult process.
That's a bummer. I thought Rush would be like, they seem like nice, geeky guys that would be into it.
And they need to be approached the right way. That's why you need to get somebody like Rightsflow involved. They'll talk to the right people. And, anyone who just kind of approaches somebody and says, hey, can we do this? Their gut reaction is going to be, no, you can't do that with my songs. If they, hear through the right channels, someone may have see it in a different light and have a different perspective. So
there's a book called, we have it sitting on one of these shelves here. Is it Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business? The Donald Passman book?
Yeah.
That's got a great chapter in it about what constitutes a cover versus a derivative work, and he cites a lot of examples of the seemingly minor changes you think you're making to something that actually bring it from cover version to derivative work. So he might want to read that too.
Right, changing the lyrics mostly is...
Unless it's like pronouns, like you can change he to she.
Oh, really? You can change he to she, but you can't change book to table.
Right.
Interesting.
And I think you can't omit lyrics. Like you couldn't just cut a verse out of a song.
Really?
You can't add anything to the song lyrically to the song. I don't know. He's got all the examples in that book.
I always cut out verses and cover songs.
Live,
yeah.
I'm sure nobody cares live.
Yeah.
Live, you can do whatever. So do that.
I'd love to hear those. One of my best friends is a Rush fanatic.
Pass those along to us. We'll just happen across it somewhere and distribute it for you. Thanks for those calls. Again, our number is 206-426-5683. It's also on the podcast website at cdbabypodcast.com, where you can leave comments for the episode, and you can also email us at info@cdbabypodcast.com and let us know your thoughts, your hopes, your dreams, your goals. And that's all.
And your questions.
And your questions. If you have some questions for Tom Jackson, that interview is going to be coming up soon. So, all right. I think we've gone on long enough.
How long have we gone on?
You don't want to know. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.